Hello, everybody. Today on the podcast, we have Krell, father of two and head of strategic partnerships at Happiest Baby. If you don't know Happiest Baby, they are the maker of the Snoo, which you've probably heard about. We talk about all things Snoo, including what the Snoo can do for you. I should take that out. Dealing with career ambitions on paternity leave, work-life balance, Lewis's best advice for working parents, and much more. My name is Anthony Franzese. You're listening to the Successful Working Parents podcast, where we talk to working parents about how they're able to balance it all and still thrive. If you enjoyed this episode, please give us a follow. Coming up soon, we have big Mother's Day special. So for all you moms out there, get ready. Anyway, on to the show. Welcome back to the Successful Working Parents podcast, the podcast where we talk to successful working parents. Folks, I think this title is sticking at this point. My guest today, he is the head of strategic partnerships at Happiest Baby, father of two. Ladies and gentlemen, Lewis Krell. Lewis, welcome to the show.
Wow, that was quite an intro. I don't know if I'm the successful part, but the working parent part, I got that for sure. So
That part always gets people, but I assure you, you're qualified. And yeah, looking forward to talking. So why don't you just start off with a little background on your career?
For sure. I won't take you back all the way to the beginning, but I think, it's always kind of interesting when you do, now I know we're a little older. I found a couple grays in the beard and you're like, man, how did I get here? But actually, originally my background was in finance. So I was a finance major, worked in investment consulting in San Francisco. And then actually, I feel like you have those stories where people are like, oh, I hate it. I was like, I didn't hate it at all. I thought it was great. But it just was certainly not entrepreneurial. It certainly wasn't didn't feel like I was building anything, and just got really, lived in San Francisco in 2008 to 2014, I think it was. So obviously like a pretty interesting time to live in a city like San Francisco where everything felt like it was being created and so much like excitement. So, kind of dipped my toe in the water in some of the startup world, a couple of my own ideas, and then ended up just realizing that, I like that idea of just building things, of trying to get in on a little bit more of the ground floor and true innovations, right? Things that I think really improve people's lives. So, I'll skip ahead a few steps, but was with a couple different startups. And then in 2020, I had a baby. And in 2020, you probably remember, there was a global pandemic.
That's right. I forgot.
So I was also working for a travel technology company at the time. And travel was not the best place to be in 2020. I was very fortunate that I was still employed. From that perspective, I'm always really grateful that I got to be at home when we had our daughter, and I just was like so hands-on, and I had nothing else to do, nowhere else to go. And just really, threw myself into this like baby world in the way that so many parents do.
Yeah.
And also understood that, regardless of what happened with COVID, no matter how long it was going to last, I was not going to be traveling as much. And me and my wife were that kind of typical, I feel like, whatever the dink, like the dual income, no kids, where it's like every penny we had was going to go to travel, was going to go to new experiences, was going to go to, taking all of our vacation time. And then you have a baby and, your priorities change a little bit. And anyway, this was a long-winded way of saying that while we were stuck inside at our, government mandated home jail, we just loved the Snoo. Like we loved Happiest Baby. We loved Dr. Karp's work. And a big thing that resonated, there's a million things, I'm sure we'll get into it, but one that really resonated with me was this idea that we talk about a lot at Happiest Baby is Snoo becomes like an extra pair of hands. It becomes like another family member for you. And at that time, we couldn't have any family members, right? It really was me and my wife and our Snoo. And, we'd say goodnight to each other and our baby and our Snoo. And it became like this, this other part of the family. And of all the other reasons that we loved it, just this idea that like, man, sometimes I'm experiencing this now. Like I have another baby now, but where do I put this thing? And it's like, my hands are full. I'm trying to do everything. And he doesn't want to be in the bouncer and he doesn't want to lay down on this, but it's like, okay, it's new, right? I can buy myself 10 minutes. So it's not just the sleep. It's not just the safety. It became, like our next pair of hands. So I stalked the founder for a while and, got to know Harvey a little bit and eventually a role opened up that was, kind of perfect for my skill set, what the company needed. And now I've been here 3.5 years.
Awesome. I forgot we have very similar backgrounds because I also started on finance and worked my way into startups on the sales side, and then kind of finally moved into something that was also like aligned with what I enjoy doing on the sales side. So, very similar
For sure.
trajectories.
I think that's why we hit it off, right? There's a nice thing about sales, partnerships, relationship building, all that stuff is you can it's transferable, right? So I just don't want to be in a position where I'm selling something or working on something that I'm not personally passionate about and I wouldn't personally use. And luckily this is the best possible example because I put the most precious thing in the world down into this thing that I sell every
Yeah,
single night for 12 hours.
yeah. Hopefully 12, right?
Yeah.
What was your biggest surprise after you became a father, or what comes to mind when I said that?
Ooh, good question. Okay, biggest surprise. I'll give you one that. So I feel like everyone. This is like a stupid answer, but everyone talks about like okay, the sleep is going to be impacted. Maybe things like breastfeeding and feeding won't be as easy as you think they will be. The diaper changes are constant. So I had this weird I felt sort of ready for a lot of those things where it's like, obviously I never really changed a diaper, but like that didn't scare me. I got a good handle on this, but there's two things I didn't expect. One is I cannot believe how much babies throw up. Like I was stunned by the amount of spit up. I
Yeah,
thought it was like a cute burp and a little dribble, and it's like
yeah.
what? Like a projectile 5 times a day, 8 times. So like the throw up just wow. I still
Hmm.
can't get over it. And then the other was honestly a little bit of the anxiety. And I'm not an anxious person. That's not my brain's. I've always been, I would say, pretty optimistic. I'm not the type that's like worst case scenario thinking almost ever. And yet, when my daughter was born, and I do think the global pandemic probably had a little bit to do with this,
Yeah,
uh, but I just could not believe how often my brain would go to a bad outcome. Where it was okay, she didn't finish this bottle, and my first thought would be like, something seriously wrong,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or just like her, the way I held her, her neck was in a weird position, and then my first thought's like, she's gonna be like, her neck's gonna be ruined for the rest of her life. It's like these things they're stronger than you think, they're more resilient than you think. But
Totally.
it took me a little bit to embrace that reality.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I had very similar issues of just. I mean, I Googled everything constantly, like trying to confirm that things were okay or they weren't as bad as I thought they were, and so I definitely can appreciate that. So okay, so happiest baby, maker of the Snoo. So for those that don't know, what is the Snoo?
Great question. So the Snoo it's the safest and smartest baby bed,
Mm.
but it's a responsive.
Hang on. Sorry, hold on. Do you see a little mute button on next to your name? You have to unmute it.
Was I muted that whole
There's
time?
my no, just at the very. I accidentally clicked it. That's what when and then I said hang on. So let me just ask you what the Snoo is again, and we'll start
All
from there.
right.
Okay, so happiest baby, maker of the Snoo. For those that don't know, what is the Snoo?
Great question. If you don't have kids, you probably don't know. If you do have kids, and especially if you're in America, you probably know, but I'll still give the quick high level. It is the smartest, safest bassinet ever created. Our founder is a guy named Dr. Harvey Karp, who is a pediatrician, a professor, a child developmentalist. And he invented the Snoo for, actually one primary reason was safety, and then being able to bring sleep into this as well. So what Snoo does is it responds to your baby. It uses sound and motion to replicate a womb-like environment. So to give baby, the rhythmic stimulation, the womb-like sensations that we know that they like, to help calm them down and to help them sleep longer. And then I mentioned the safety part as well. So we're the only FDA authorized device for infant safety. No bassinet has ever received this classification because the Snoo, you actually clip your baby in. We have a proprietary sleep sack where you clip these wings in on the side so they can keep baby safely on their back throughout the night. So, I definitely encourage you to, go Google it, go to YouTube, go to our website. But the kind of two main takeaways are we become pretty famous because on average, babies will sleep an extra hour or two a night in Snoo. And then also the safety that I mentioned with that FDA authorization.
An extra hour or two does sound nice. So are there? I guess there probably are some imitators at this point, right? Like, are there things that they can't do? You mentioned some proprietary technology.
For sure, yeah. So I mean, from a true mind share or just like your wallet perspective, I mean, the crib at Walmart is a competitor, right? Like everybody needs something to put their baby into. So we have a million competitors, but we really have nothing like us. There are other bassinets that have incorporated some type of intelligence, right? Some type of AI motion, like those do exist now. None of them have a lot of the things that, of course, I am a little biased, but we have 700 million hours of sleep logged. We have hundreds of thousands of babies that have used the Snoo. We also, that FDA authorization is truly I think the end all be all that nobody else has. But we're also in 180 hospitals. So hospitals use this across the country in their NICU wards, their maternity floors. It just has reached this level of trust that's really, really difficult to get with moms and dads. So I do think there's nobody really in our class in terms of the science base behind it, the research behind it. We do see ourselves, right. We're a mission based company. Our goal is to save babies' lives. It's to improve outcomes for families. We're also a science-based company. Not only is our founder a pediatrician, but the head of our medical affairs team is the past president of the American Academy of Pediatrics. We have a whole research department that is constantly doing research, as they should be, right? And really, putting science behind this. So it's not just another product. It's not just some swing. It's not something that looks nice, but it's truly research, science-based, and it works.
So I'm wondering if there's any learnings that Happiest Baby has learned or data or insights it's collected from these hundreds of millions of sleep hours logged around sleep habits or anything like that.
Yeah, so I think we've learned a lot, but something that's been really amazing is I think we've just solidified things that people already knew. There's always an element of that too. So I'll give you one example, not that you really asked, but one of my favorite things that comes up. We go to conferences, we go to events, and people go, "Oh my God, I would never use a robot to put my baby to sleep. How could you use a robot? That's like, how could you do that?" And then it's my favorite thing people say, because especially if it's, I assume we're roughly the same age. So it's a generation a little bit above us, maybe our parents' generation. That's like a reasonably common response of like, it just doesn't sit well with them. And then what I like to say to them is like, okay, when you had a baby, did you ever put your baby in the backseat of the car and drive around at night? You couldn't get your baby to sleep, so you put it in the car and drove around. And I'll go, oh yeah, of course. Pediatricians recommended that. My mom, everyone did that.
Mm-hmm.
Go, okay, so what you did is you used the most dangerous robot ever invented, and you used a robot to put your baby to sleep, and you did it probably at night while you were sleep deprived. The U.S. Highway Safety Commission says if you get under 4 consecutive hours of sleep, you're 11 times more likely to get into a car accident the very next day. So basically, you took the most dangerous machine already invented, you operated at the most dangerous possible time to help put your baby to sleep. You weren't wrong.
And your car seat was probably backwards.
Exactly. Your car seat was probably in the wrong direction. Or if you were old enough, maybe you didn't even have a car seat. Maybe you stuck them on the dashboard or you put them on your lap. So it's just those things that we know worked, right? But nobody had really put it all together in the sense of why this works, right? And the fourth trimester is Harvey's big breakthrough concept. And this idea that in utero, a baby's really snug, right? It's super swaddled at all times. It's never experienced stillness. It's never experienced silence. And yet most babies that come over from the hospital, put in a crib on their back, they've never done that. It's unswaddled. They've never done that. It's silent and it's still, and it's sensory deprivation, right? And we go, oh, babies love to be rocked and held and shushed and all these things that we know. So what Snoo is able to do is take things we already knew and then just prove that it works, connect those sleep cycles, help them sleep longer, and then have happier, healthier parents.
Yeah. I mean, the motion thing, like, to this day, I mean, my daughter is like 20 months old and still, like, when we're driving the car, if we're sitting still for too long, she gets kind of restless. But when we're driving, she's more content. Like, it's definitely a thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's still adult, right? Planes and trains and hammocks and like adults like that stuff too. So it's pretty innate.
And so you're also heading the team that is bringing the Snoo into employers, into organizations as well, right?
Yeah. So my specific focus here is the Snoo Employee Benefit Program. So I won't give you the whole pitch because I know that's not the purpose of this, but we work with about 140 corporations now, really of all shapes, sizes, industries, geographies, where they make a Snoo part of their parental leave benefits package. And it's just been amazing, right? Look, we've seen tremendous growth in the program, but what we're really proud of is we have a 100% retention rate of our clients. We just finished our year-end surveying, so we got an 88 as our net promoter score from benefit managers. So parents love this. I think it was 98% of parents say they got more sleep and better mental health, but the benefit managers, the ones who are also saying like, this has been one of our most popular benefits. And as you can imagine, right, if you're a new parent, you've experienced this. I'm in it right now. But if you can get an extra hour or two of sleep every night, if you can get that, that mental health component of knowing my baby's safe, if you get the loyalty, so we actually can put the branding of our companies on the sleep sack, on the Snoo.
Oh, cool.
We just have these different ways to really increase loyalty, recruitment, retention, and also reduce healthcare costs, right? Like people, I'll give you another stat. Obviously, we rattle these off a lot, but people who don't sleep, like you are 7 times more likely to get the common cold if you have poor sleep. And it doesn't matter why you have poor sleep. It doesn't matter if it's a baby or insomnia or whatever it is. That's just a fact. So you're more likely to miss work, right? Or if you go to work, you're more likely to get everyone else sick. So there's just a whole bunch of things built into this program, in addition to the sheer volume of money and programs that are now available for new parents at leading corporations. So it's nice to be able to do something. It's a little different. It's a little bit unique, and it's really, really impactful from a parent perspective and an ROI perspective for the corporation.
Yeah, and I imagine you're making the business case as well that if your employees are better rested, they're going to be showing up to work better and happier and all that good stuff too.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's so interesting because we have so many different types of clients now, and how they value this is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
How could a baby bed mean so much to so many different people? But, we had one where it was a law firm who told us we had a senior partner with her first baby. She was such, just postpartum depression, physical health was deteriorating, and she ended up taking 3 months off after her parental leave where she just couldn't come back to work. She was a senior partner at a major, major law firm, and she bills like $1,500 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
The second time she had a baby, she got a Snoo. She felt like she had more support. She felt like she slept better, and she came back to work 3 months earlier. I know that's just one story, but $1,500 an hour for 3 months versus a Snoo, which costs $129 a month for the corporate, basically $4 a day. Pretty good. Hospitals tell us sometimes, we work with several hospitals now, where if one tired doctor, one tired nurse makes one mistake, millions of dollars of liability. So, once again, not trying to say we're an end all be all, but we become part of this larger benefits package that really is helping corporations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and as you know, I work in the employee benefit space too. So there's a lot of different use cases to be made. One of them is just that employees appreciate it and they're more likely to stick around. But then if you're able to actually improve their mental health or their physical health in some way, then there's productivity improvements and there's cost savings. So there's huge benefits to both the user and the company. So it's great to see companies doing more and more to improve their employees' lives, because we spend a lot of time at work, even if we're at home, right? We're spending a lot of time working. And so I think we're going to see employers take more and more of a vested interest in their employees' lives and health.
Definitely. I mean, and we see it, right? The fertility companies, I think, have done an amazing job. And it's like, what a wonderful benefit, right? Like to be able to have that impact on your people is just like special, right? It's special. And we talk to benefit leaders all the time, where it's like nobody ever leaves the dentist and then takes a selfie of their teeth and is like, thank you, HR benefit department for covering my dental bill. Like you should do it. No one ever does it.
Right.
But what they do is, like you can't wait to put it on LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is when you get a Snoo or when you get breast milk delivery or when you get your fertility treatment covered, right? These are the things that people just shout from the rooftops. And it does matter, right? It helps with recruitment, retention, press PR, winning awards, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So when it comes to sleep, so how old is your second child?
So I have a 4-year-old daughter and then almost 6-month-old son.
Okay. All right. So you're still not sleeping through the night, I guess, huh? Or maybe he is because of the Snoo.
He's a good Snoo baby. He's a very good Snoo baby. So we're lucky on that front.
Yeah.
I was definitely worried because it went so well the first time. I was like, oh no, what if it doesn't work this time?
Yeah.
We are now in that interesting, right? We're starting the weaning mode. Things are changing, but yeah, it's been a really good second experience as well.
So the Snoo is only for when they're in your room, right? And then I guess when you move into their own room and maybe do sleep training, is there no more Snoo work, or they can still use a Snoo?
Yeah, so our average baby will be in Snoo for about 6 months, and that is pretty common. But some babies will outgrow it, a little bit earlier. They're just really big, or they just
moving around a lot.
Yeah, they'll give you those clues that maybe it's time. And some babies, smaller, like NICU babies, twins often may stay in Snoo for 7 months, 8 months, but 6 is a pretty good rule of thumb. And then there is a really good weaning feature, and we always encourage parents to follow it. But to help babies wean off of it, something we always recommend is to continuously use white noise, and we have a couple other products that we sell. So there's things in the Happiest Baby store that you can keep using. But yeah, the Snoo is typically about 6 months.
So what's your experience been other than Snoo usage? Like how are you managing having the second kid? Like how are you trying to get sleep and trying to get rest? Like how's that been going?
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely a big change.
The
We got
jump from one to two I always talk about on my show. I know everybody really struggles with it and often kind of looks at their career differently as well. So I don't know if you're having those thoughts yet.
Yeah, I think for sure, right? It's definitely a big change. I think, and this is everyone justifies whatever they did, and this was not necessarily exactly our plan, but the age gap does help.
Yeah. No,
So
for sure.
we have 4 years, almost exactly 4 years between the two.
Yeah.
So the fact that my daughter can be like, just can you go just like color in the corner and
Yeah.
like, that helps, right? She's also like she's in school, so for my wife, she's still out on maternity leave. But during the day, Monday to Friday, she still gets that like, kind of special focus. So I think we're lucky in a lot of senses where I have some friends that have, and we have really good friends that have 3 under 4.
Yeah.
It's just like
It's
that
chaos.
is not us, in
Yeah.
terms of like, I don't know how it would work, but God bless them. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But no, I think there's certain things, right? And one of the themes I hear in your show and just you talk to working parents is like one of the things that is a little surprising about having a baby that you wouldn't necessarily expect is I think it actually weirdly makes you more productive just in the sense that you can't mess around anymore.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like if I set aside, it's like this is the thing I need to accomplish today. I have to accomplish it today, right? Because I got daycare drop off, and then we got ballet,
Totally.
and then my baby.
You have a real hard stop in the day.
Totally. And I would say, right, that's something that 5, 7 years ago, I probably wasn't that good at, right? In terms of being able to really time block and follow my own, like, hey, like boss of me, Lewis, that's a good idea. I should do this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when people ask like advice for having a kid, one of the things I always tell people is if something pops in your mind, do it right away or write it down right away because you will not remember it and it could be the smallest stupidest little thing, but like if it's in your head and you're like I need to do it, go do it right now, like drop whatever you're doing because before you had kids you're like, oh, I'll take care of that later, and you would, but now you'll be like, oh, what was that thing I wanted to do, and it's gone.
Yeah. So your wife's still on leave, so you're probably still like developing some routines and stuff. But I'm curious so far how you found just kind of juggling work time and family time, especially now that you have a second kid. You probably have to dedicate. You want to give time to both kids now. Like, how are you finding time to do that?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the nice things, obviously, is working for a baby company. I think we have really family friendly culture, and they're happy. People are happy for me that I have a baby. They want to see cute pictures. So there is at least some flexibility, and I have no problem with it. Right? If I know some people would say this is not healthy or maybe not good, but for me it really works. Is I have no problem if I have to take a call earlier than I typically would, or I have to do a little bit of work after bedtime, like that's fine. So what I've tried to carve out is that bedtime routine. I know it's like a little bit cliche, but it is true. Like I really try and value that, where if I'm off the clock, phones away, computers away, to be there for bedtime, bath time, dinner time, those after school activities, that's such a good trade-off for me. If I have to do a little bit of work again later that night, like I don't care, because to me that's a wonderful trade-off, and many companies wouldn't allow that, but luckily mine does. So I think I'm in a good position in that respect. But yeah, it's you are correct. I'm super lucky that I'm also in Canada. We didn't mention that, but Happiest Baby is based in Los Angeles, so most everyone's in LA, but I'm up in Vancouver, Canada. So my wife's company is a Canadian company, and she has really good leave from a time perspective. It's not as good as people always think from a money
Uh huh.
perspective. The
Yeah.
time is fantastic. So,
Right.
yeah, I can't really give anyone advice other than I don't know, move to Canada.
Yeah. I mean, most places other than the U.S. have pretty legit support. At least again from a time perspective, anyway.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, on my end, I feel like carving out that like 5 to 8 or 4:30 to 7:30 is, and then you don't really mind if you have to do some stuff after whatever 9 o'clock for a little while because that time is really nice. And if you have a manager that also has a kid and gets it, or just people at your company, I mean, I think that's a big key. Is obviously it's great if you go work for a family, like a family focused company, but even if you don't, but your manager gets it, then I think that you're able to kind of have some of that flexibility.
totally. And I think it's like anything, right? Like be good at your job. It's like when you're good at your job and people like working with you, there's a little bit more flexibility. So I think like take what you do seriously and try and perform and prove to people that you're really reliable to do what you say you're going to do. And the more you do that, the more leeway that you'll get in the end. Um, and I just think it's like another obvious bit of advice, but I think sometimes people don't think enough about like, why aren't they giving me all this leeway? And I was like, well, you got to prove that you're kind of worthy of it. So I would tell a lot of people, it's like if you don't have a baby yet, get really important, knowing that you got a baby coming up, and then take advantage. But yeah, I just think it's good to try and find places that align with your values wherever you can. And I'm lucky that I've done that. It's a company that really cares about families.
When you were on leave, did you feel like a pull as both like the father, man provider, and also just as like a sales focused revenue guy to get back to it quick? And did you have a hard time just like really stepping away?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if people want to admit it, but I did. Like I didn't take an extremely long.
No, you probably didn't take as long as you could have, I bet.
Yeah, and I took a lot, right? And,
Yeah.
I also think I try and be like a very involved dad day to day. So it's not like a all or nothing. It's like constant, right? So I didn't have to like feel guilt about that. But yeah, right. We have a really small team. We don't have a lot of people, and we do have the type of jobs where if you put something down for 6 months, you can't necessarily just come back to it and
Right. Yeah.
be there. So
Yeah, totally.
that certainly weighed on me, but I think it's also another factor of I didn't mind it so much, just knowing that I really like my job. I really like what I do. I really like who I work for.
Yeah.
So that, and it's also one of this is like super cheesy, but you talk sometimes about like what would you want your kids when they're a little older and they understand, okay, what does dad do, right? What does mom do? And talking about your job, I've always wanted to be in a position where I could say something that like, hey, I have to go do this, but it's like I'm happy to do it, right? It's like I want
Yeah.
kids to see like dad is doing something that brings him some joy, and hopefully he's helping other people too, giving back in some way. So I think I would have really struggled if I worked at a company where it was like this is a paycheck and nothing more.
Yeah.
Then I would have felt enormous guilt.
No, I mean, I felt the same way when I was on leave. Like I wanted to take time off, but there's also, the more meetings I take, the more revenue I can bring in and the more money I can make. So there's definitely a pull there. Like it's crazy to admit this, but I took one call from the hospital because it was just, we were
Oops.
hanging out, nothing was going on. The baby was sleeping. It was like a quick, it was like an internal call, like 20 minutes. And I was like, yeah, I could jump on it real quick just because there's something I wanted to talk about.
Hey, babies sleep a lot.
Yeah. So, you have to kind of find the balance too. And then of course I did unplug and take time away, but yeah, it is a tricky pull. I mean, when I became a dad, I felt like almost like a dichotomy of like wanting to just screw everything and just be with your family, but also really feeling a need to like provide and be more ambitious and work harder than usual. So it's kind of a weird thing to figure out.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's not something you can't really express it till you are in it.
Yeah.
But I felt that exact same pull of like, God, it'd be nice to just be 24/7 here. But hey, you know what else would be nice? Like if my kids could like afford to do nice things.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. Diapers don't pay for themselves.
Yeah, exactly. They really
Uh,
don't, man. Those diapers, formula.
I mean, I gotta say that's probably my biggest surprise is like you go through a lot. If you do the math on how many diapers you go through, it's a lot of diapers.
I'm sure you've seen this too. I always see like the memes, but like, you get out of the first stage, like, okay, diapers, and if you're doing formula, and if you're doing some of these other things that are just like big expenses, you're like, oh, I'm going to save so much money. And then you get to the next phase, which is just berries. Like blueberries are so expensive. And my daughter ate like, that's just mountains of blueberries. And I was like, this costs the same as
Yeah,
diapers.
my daughter's really into blueberries lately. I don't know.
Love
Must be like a little girl thing. I don't know. Okay, we're gonna move into the final segment called Lewis's Advice Corner. So I'm gonna ask you for some advice on a few topics. You ready?
love
All right. What's your best piece of advice for working parents?
for a working parent, I think it is. It's respecting your own time blocks. Like it's kind of listening to yourself. You know what you need to prioritize, but actually doing it are two different things. And then, yeah, certainly being able to carve out that time, right? I think it's the time blocks both for the personal and the professional. If you say, I'm not at that stage yet, but like I want to be the dad who's coaching every team, right? I want to be the dad who's on the sidelines, who's not missing these things. And you could, I'm not there, so I don't want to make it sound like it's easy, but you can do it if you get what you need to get done. So I think that's been the thing for me. And I'm happy to admit this, like pre-baby, like that was not a strength of mine. And now it's become something that you just kind of can't live without.
What advice do you have for self-care?
Self-care. This isn't really necessarily self-care, but this is probably my dumbest piece of advice, but I really think it's important.
Okay.
So no one, and I tell you, no one has given you this advice yet. So
Let's see. I've heard got a lot of advice so far.
before you have your first baby, before you have your first one, this only applies to the first one, but while you're pregnant, because people will tell you, right? Like, oh, babies don't sleep, or it's just you're so on the go all the time. But even bad sleepers, even if you don't get a snoo, okay, I should take it back. The first piece of advice is get a snoo. But even bad sleepers still sleep all the time. They just don't usually sleep for long stretches. And the earliest phases to me were really like house arrest. You're home a lot. So I remember people telling me, it was like, you're never going to be able to do like all these different things. So the thing that I've found that I've never been able to do is sit down and watch a movie from beginning to end. However, the thing I have been able to do is still be able to watch TV shows. So like you will have a lot of pockets of 30 minutes. You'll have a lot of pockets of 45 minutes, but you will have almost no pockets of like 2.5 hours consecutive. So my advice to expecting parents in that nesting phase is if there's a TV show you've always wanted to watch, don't save it. But if there's a movie you've always wanted to watch, you have to watch it now, because I don't think I've seen a movie in 4.5 years. So there's one. There's one. The self-care is definitely get the snoo, self-serving. But I'll also share, I think this is like a kind of generic parenting advice as well. I'm sure you had this experience, but when you post on Instagram or whatever, tell people you're having a baby, people come out of the woodwork, man. Like people you haven't talked to in a long time, people whose opinion you would never seek out. They cannot wait to tell you, oh, you got to do this, or you got to buy this. You have to. And what I found really early on throughout that whole pregnancy phase was there's people I would turn to for advice about fill in the blank topic. Those people who I already like respected their opinion and their advice, I would respect it about parenting as well, because generally those people would be the same people who would have good advice. And the people whose advice I wouldn't go to, if it was a restaurant recommendation or whatever it is, if I wouldn't respect it there, or I wouldn't want to take their advice there, I probably wouldn't want to take it in the parenting world either. So I really gravitated, okay, who's been there, who makes it like easier, who do you really respect? And then one of the things that I found like a very connective tissue between a lot of those people is a lot of them had snooze, and a lot of them said, look, just trust me on this. People tell you maybe it's expensive, whatever it is, like just trust me, you got to get it. And it turned out to be the best advice I got of any parenting thing, and it led me to having the career that I have too. So that was pretty nice.
Shots fired at the random aunts and uncles on Facebook right now.
A lot of random,
yeah. What, other than Happiest Baby, what parenting resources do you recommend? Whether it's a book or a podcast or a person or.
Yeah. There really is a lot of great stuff out there. So one thing, and I don't know if people agree with me, we did one of the parenting classes where it's like you have to go, right? It's every Tuesday night for an hour, and you go and do this for your first baby. You never need to do it again.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of value out of it, not necessarily because of what we learned in the class, and just because it made you go, right? It made you carve out an hour or 2 hours and be with your partner and like focus exclusively on this is happening. And we need to like be as prepared as we can. And we're in this together. And I felt like it was crazy because I couldn't tell you one real thing that I learned from it. But I thought there was a lot of value in just going to one of those.
Yeah.
Because people say, oh, you can Google that, you can YouTube it, right? And I was like, yes, but. So that's one thing I always do recommend. And then, I think it's kind of gravitate towards the products, because there's so much stuff out there, but gravitate towards the products that actually solve a problem. And I can give, I guess I'm giving a plug for somebody else, but one example, the first baby, we much more breastfeeding, went a little bit easier, just pumping was a lot easier. So the second time wasn't as easy. And we ended up getting a Brezza, and the Brezza, the reason I loved it, right, is the fact that this is a huge parenting problem. Is at 3:00 in the morning, measuring out isn't very fun. getting the right temperature, right? It's a little too cold, it's a little too hot, isn't fun. So the fact that I could push a button and it was like, that saved me so much just effort and time. And I knew it was going to be good. So it's like things like that, right? Where the really fancy bottle, who cares, right? And I think Snoo's a perfect example, right? There's beautiful bassinets out there. They don't do anything.
Yeah.
Snoo is beautiful, but it really helps you. An extra hour or two of sleep is worth paying for.
Yeah.
Whereas some of these other things, they don't really help you. So yeah, and I won't bash. I came here to praise other products. I won't bash, but I have a few that I think they don't really help you.
Yeah, we'll save that. We'll save that for next time.
Yeah, DM me for those ones.
What advice do you have for somebody in sales or wants to be better at sales, regardless of what their career is?
Yeah. Ooh, good question. I think you really do need to try and connect, right? Like connect with what you're selling to what you care about. If you can do that, you're going to be more successful because it's authenticity, right? I think authenticity really, really does matter. There's certain products that it probably doesn't matter, right? If I'm selling like your Norton antivirus security or whatever, maybe the relationship doesn't matter as much. It's just the need is there. But if you can have like true passion, I think people pick up on that.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think people pick up on is the relationship, right? There are certain things where yes, that doesn't matter. But in most of sales, it's like most things in life, right? You'd rather spend time with people that you want to spend time with. And I think people think about it, right? When you see that, and I'm sure you do this, right? You see the invite on your calendar coming up and you're like, I love that guy. I'm excited to spend 15 minutes with this guy versus they're like, oh my God, I'm dreading this so much.
Yeah.
And be the first guy.
Yeah. All right. I like that.
Yeah.
What is the best advice you've ever received?
Ooh, I wasn't prepared for this one. Okay. Can I give you one piece of this is going to be very focused advice, but it's a little bit parenting and a little bit like entrepreneurial. Best advice I ever got, and now I've seen this play out time and time again throughout my career, is if you want to start a company or you're a very early employee at a company, you have to be good at something. And I know that sounds stupid, but I can't tell you how many times they start a company because they're really passionate about it, right? Or they start a company because it solved the problem that they had.
Yeah.
Don't assume your problem is universal. But if your problem, regardless if it is or not, if you're really, really good at something and you start a company, and I don't care what that is, right? Be really good at sales, be really good at marketing, be really good at coding, be really good at you have to have like a foundational thing that you are exceptional at. Having a good idea or solving a problem, like it just isn't enough. And I've seen this, right? I actually had an experience where it was like basically the exact same company back to back. And the first one failed and the second one succeeded. And I really think the biggest difference is we had a founder who was really, really good at coding, engineering, executing. And the first one, we had a founder who was really passionate about his idea. Passionate about your idea, but not good at anything, doesn't lead to good outcomes. So if you're thinking about starting a company, if you're thinking about joining a company, really take a look at yourself or take a look at those early stage founders and go like, it can't just be passion. And it can't just be, I think I'm solving like a small problem. I'm solving a larger problem and they're really good at something.
I like that. Other than that, what advice would you give to your former self?
Former self. Good one. I don't know. I mean, I'll tell, this is not at all in the scope of what you're asking, but I lived in Seattle for a few years and our startup was headquartered in South Lake Union, where Amazon is headquartered. And I walked to work every single day listening to whatever podcast or music I was listening to. And I would just see 100 cranes around me in every single direction. And every day, 1,000 new more people were coming. And I just kept walking to and from work and to and from work. So basically, long story short, buy Amazon stock. What are you doing? Like, what were you doing? Anyone can say that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I lived it. I lived in South Lake Union and I didn't buy Amazon stock. Like, so that's one. And the other is honestly like, maybe even have kids like a year or two earlier than you did. I'm not an old dad by any means, but it's just one of those things that I'm super happy I had my single life, the 20s. Me and my wife dated for a long time. As I said, we traveled, we did all that, but it was like we'd been together for 9 years. We've been married for 5 before we had our first kid. And I was like, what are we waiting for?
Yeah. I know. I was definitely better at not sleeping when I was,
Yeah.
even 27, let alone 37. Okay, last question. What advice do you have for me? By the time this episode comes out, my daughter will probably be like a 22 months old. So, what advice do you have for me as the father of a 22-month-old daughter?
22-month-old daughter. All right. So I don't know if you're already like into this yet, but definitely try and shape her music taste a little. Like the Disney's gonna come, all that stuff. You can't fight it.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly,
I'm currently fighting Elmo, so I need.
okay, so
I'm
that's
looking forward
just
to. I'm looking forward to this advice.
okay. So and personal preferences, I understand, but I think most like Disney type of music and a lot of that stuff is actually like it's not bad. Most truly kids music is just awful. So I feel like don't give in. Don't feel like you have to put on the Coco Melons or the like the Elmo. Um,
Elmo's Ducks is on repeat right now.
yeah, you're just like you're not having a good time. I know.
No.
So I feel like you parents have like a little bit more authority in the home than they may think to at least try and shape some of these things.
Uh-huh.
So like I'm not going to fight. Like it's just never. I'm never going to win. There's going to be some TV shows or music or whatever that like their friends get in or their cousins, but like don't give up. Don't give up. Like try and get your music in there. At the very least, try and get like the upper tier of kids music instead of the lower tier.
That's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. That's
I
a good
believe
one.
you can do it.
I like that. Yeah, no one said that one yet. All right, Lewis. Well, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to connect with you or learn more about you? Anything you like to share or promote?
Yeah, I'll plug away. So happiestbaby.com is the main website. Snoo, the main product for sure. But as Anthony mentioned, and we've two really exciting kind of growing areas: the employee benefit program and hospitals and healthcare. Anyone who's had a baby, even if none of this resonated with you in terms of the Snoo, I know this will. If you look at a Snoo and see what it does, and then compare it to the plastic Tupperware box that your baby was put into at the hospital when they were wrapped in like a dirty looking towel that who knows the last time it was washed before they were put in the Tupperware box. I just could not believe any more strongly. Snoo will be everywhere. Snoo will be covered by insurance. That's already starting to happen. Several companies go that path. But bring this to your HR benefit people. It's going to be beloved. It's going to go really well. But yeah, employee benefit route and then the hospital and healthcare route. I think Snoo is going to be the baby bed in every single hospital in America down the road. And I do think that all insurance companies are going to cover this in the same way they cover their breast pumps. So what we just need now is more people who know about it, more people who talk about it. But yep, definitely reach out. I'm super easy to find. Just Lewis, Lewis at happiestbaby.com.
Awesome. Well, I will link to all that in the show notes. Lewis Krell, ladies and gentlemen. Lewis, thanks so much.
Man, thank you. This was fun. Always good talking to other dads, and I'm sure I'll come up with a bunch of advice. I was like, oh, that was way better than what I said.
Yeah, we'll have to do a part 2 then. All right.